Okay. I'm calling, this is the Hideout Utah Town Council regular meeting of October 13th, 2022, called to order. This meeting is an electronic meeting with no anchor site for all the obvious reasons that we all know, COVID. Take roll for the council members. Carol Hazelton,
I am here.
Ralph Severini,
Here.
Sherry Jacobs,
I'm here.
thank you, Sherry. Chris Byer,
Here.
thank you. And Bob Nadelberg.
Here.
Well, we have the full council and quorum. Also from the town tonight, we have Polly McLean, who's our legal counsel, Thomas Eddington, our planner. We have Tim Dixon from engineering and public works, as well as Daniel. And we've got Jan on the phone. And I can't see the rest of the list without switching off the screen, but we have a fair bit of the office team or the town team here with us tonight. The first item is approval of the March 29th, 2022 Town Council special meeting minutes. Those minutes were a couple of items. One was the PID. And then there was a public hearing on Hideout Lot 37, which is going to come up later again tonight. And the discussion around the zoning for the boulders, which is now a moot discussion since that project has been pulled. So did anyone find anything in the write-up that they want to clarify or make corrections to?
I did. This is Carol. It was page 3, line 13. And it said alternate concept idea. It should be alternate concept ideas because there was more than one presented.
Gotcha. Alicia, if you'd make that note and adjust that when you, if we.
It was very minor.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments?
I don't have any.
Thank you.
Nothing my end either.
Thank you, Ralph. Okay, so if there's no other comments on those minutes, then I would need a motion to approve the minutes of March 29th Town Council special meeting, amended per Carol's comment.
So moved. This is Chris.
I'll second. This is Carol.
Thank you. Ralph, okay,
Yes.
thank you. Sherry,
Yes.
thank you. Bob,
Yes.
thank you. Carol,
Yes.
Thank you. And Chris?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. The next item is follow-up from council minutes. Alicia, are there anything in this package on that, or is this just from our memory?
No, I think that those would have been any questions that would have come up based on the minutes that were just discussed.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
But this, since the majority of it was moot, I don't know if anybody has any questions about that.
Got it. So, any other comments on the items in the minutes that anybody wanted to mention? Otherwise, we'll move forward. I take silence as a go, so we'll move to item 5, public input. This is floor open for any attendee to speak on items not listed on the agenda. I will I'll stop sharing the PDF and put the participants list up. So if there's any participants who wanted to raise anything with council that we're not already talking about tonight, this is the time. The way you do that is by using the raise hand functionality in Zoom. Carol.
This is not anything on the agenda. It is about the traffic on 248, and I am aware of the fact that we probably can't do anything about it. But tonight I was in Park City. I came in when everybody else was coming in on 248, and I decided to save time. I would turn in at the Ross Creek entrance, and there were 5 of us that turned in pretty much at the same time. And honestly, I thought there might be an accident going to happen because there's no turn lane there. And we're all backing up the traffic. The traffic's heavy, going fast down that hill. And anyhow, I just wondered, my question is, has UDOT given us any time schedule as to when they're going to put a right turn lane there?
Tim can jump in here, but they were at one point at 75% supposedly designed, which was going to allow us to do some work there. And then and we're supposed to have a meeting about a month ago, and they canceled the meeting at the last minute and pulled the design back. And I think, Tim, where are they, like 25% now?
Yeah, they're back to 25%. They're
What
telling, yeah,
What does
they're,
that mean?
So that what it means is we need the design that they approve for how that entrance and turning lane is going to look before we can start creating one. So we can't just do it because we want to. We have to get UDOT to bless it. So we're back, we're pressuring them. Tim's in contact with them, but we need their approval of how this thing's supposed to look before we start, moving dirt around. So we told them that it's very treacherous, it's dangerous. They acknowledge that it's a problem, but for reasons that we don't understand, they pulled the design back.
Okay,
Okay, so I appreciate it, Carol. I can tell you that some of us have experienced the same thing, and what I do is I actually get in the breakdown lane for that turn.
right. And it's also very unstable. It's rocky.
Yes, I agree, which is why we want to do something, but unfortunately, it's not our property to do work on, so we need their blessing.
Okay, thank you. Just thought I'd bring
Okay.
it up.
No, good point. Thank you. Greg M has his hand up. Go ahead, Greg, and introduce yourself.
Hi there. So my name's Greg. My wife and I are owners in Golden Eagle, and pleasure to speak with you tonight. We are going to be moving out, hopefully in a couple of years, to become full-time residents out there. And I know that this has been a discussion point with the holdout of permits for at least the last meeting. I've listened to all of the videos you have up in the last 6 months. And first of all, thank you for the communication and the communicativeness that you all are doing. It's abnormally good, and I want to try to lean into that tonight. I know you can't talk about legal proceedings or the merits of the case. I don't want to ask you to do that. But a lot of the residents in Golden Eagle, which are going to be a large section of your future population, can't get started, and they don't live out there. My wife and I live in suburban Philadelphia. We're looking to move west in a couple of years. What I'd like to ask you all to think about and maybe do, since this is hitting so many people, is would you please consider having a standing item at your monthly meetings where you just talk for a minute or two about what progress you're seeing. Phil, you said at last month's meeting you're seeing progress. I can't fly across the country every month to come see it, and it would be great to hear any information of the progress you're seeing, as opposed to either party asking us to put pressure on the other side. Because if you guys would do that, you're going to create immense goodwill that's probably going to inspire the Golden Eagle residents to your side and apply pressure where they can. Anyway, that was it. Thank you for considering it.
I think that's a great comment, Greg. And I think we can easily do that. In fact, Tim, if you want to take a minute and just tell them the latest progress. I think there's been some progress on the water system, although not still fully available to us, but.
Yeah, that's correct, Mayor. Yeah, I can speak just kind of quickly on it. They are working on the shoulders. They've on the roads. They've actually dug out a portion next to the asphalt and made it about 2 feet deep. So it's basically an immediate drop off from the pavement to the shoulder or to the dirt. They're working on, getting ready to put dirt in and gravel and rock for the shoulders. The water tank, it's still on wood blocks, but they do have temporary power there to run a test on it. They did fill the water tank as the pump was leaking, but they did fill the water tank, and they're going to fix the pump that's leaking. And so they're working. I know they poured concrete on the roof yesterday. They're waiting for permanent power for the pump station. Road work is still being ongoing, and shoulder work's ongoing, and they're doing the best they can to continue to work and move forward. So that's kind of where they're at, and we look forward to having them do some things. They're still working on the sewer on the back end. They were down at the connection point towards the Soaring Hawk subdivision, and with making the connection there yesterday. So they've got work that they're just doing, and they're just doing it as fast as I think they can. So that's kind of the latest from Golden Eagle.
Thank you, Tim. So Alicia, would you be so kind as to make a note to add that as a standing update item until we get to the point where we can issue permits?
You bet.
Thank you. And Tim, if you would be prepared monthly to chat about those kinds of things, that'd be great.
Yep, no worries.
Okay. Chris Byer, your hand is up.
Thank you. I've gotten a couple of complaints about flat tires on the roadways around the, construction zones, shoreline, your waters. And can you help us, Mayor, can you and maybe Tim help us understand what the town might be able to do, to try to minimize metal that might be on our roadways? Is there some action that you're already taking with the developers, or there's some action Public Works might be able to do to perhaps lessen the amount of, nails in tires and things like that, nails and screws in tires?
Good question, Chris. Tim,
Yeah.
you want to take a shot at that?
I was gonna say, yeah, you know, I've gotten the same, and my staff's got the same complaints, and, we ask our developers to make sure they, sweep the roads as much as possible. When we had the rainstorm, we actually went out and rented a sweeper for about 2 weeks, and we actually did a lot of sweeping. And so, the unfortunate thing is, since we don't have a sweeper in town hall or at Public Works that we own, it's not something that we can kind of go out and help, and if there's a spot area to get done, we have to go rent one. So, we're relying on our developers. When we hear of things like, hey, I'm having a punctured tire, we're asking them if they can just maybe run a sweeper over it, et cetera. Because, yep, I'm aware of it. I can tell you I have a couple nails in my work truck. So
Tim, can we ask them to please patrol and give us documentation that they actually patrolled each evening or each evening before they shut the job down at night?
Yeah, I mean, we can definitely do something like that. I think that would be helpful, and I'll reach out to our developers and see if that would be something they can provide to us. That'd be a great idea.
I think if we do something like that, they'll be more conscientious about it, because it's a pain in the neck for them to have to give us an email each evening saying, our guys are out there in this stretch of shoreline or this stretch of, recreation drive has been checked or what.
Yep. Yeah, we'll do that. And we'll continue to work with our developers to make sure that they, go through and on their weekly, they do it weekly. They're supposed to do it weekly. Make sure they go ahead and get that done, and we'll stay on top of them.
And then Tim, as an aside, do some research for me and find out what a sweeper attachment would cost for our skid steer.
So can I mention something about that? You're talking about a brush sweeper, right, Tim?
Yeah.
Have you looked into a metallic sweeper? It's just a giant magnet you either tow or you hang on a vehicle. And it's designed for pavement to pick up metallic debris.
Not a bad idea, Chris.
Yeah, you're correct. It's not a bad idea, but again, you're looking at double the cost of what it would cost for a brush sweeper. So, but we can look at it and present some numbers.
Give me the numbers on both, Tim, and we'll see what we can do.
Figure out.
I did a little bit of shopping this morning to see how much they cost. But the reason I'm mentioning the metallic sweeper in particular is, we're going to be faced with construction for years and years to come.
Yeah.
Once Shoreline gets built out, we still have, Golden Eagle coming in, and we don't know what else might be happening with undeveloped lots. So we could be needing to take action, at least on the roadways that are dedicated to the town, that, we may have to take some kind of public works action just for the community's benefit. So anyway, I just wanted to plant that seed, and I'd appreciate it if you guys would look into it and see if there's something we could do. Because as you know, it's, besides can be very expensive, can be cheap having a nail, but it can be a new tire also.
Oh, yeah.
And the inconvenience factor, and then
Sure.
and I'm pretty sure we'll be able to justify the cost if you do some research and help us understand, for something like that could benefit everyone.
Yeah, we'll do some research. There's probably some used ones out there as well.
Yep.
So we can take a look at that. That's a great thought, Chris. And
Thank you.
thanks for bringing that up. Bob, and your gyro cosmic whatever.
Hey, Phil, right below your house, I believe that's called Dead Man's Gulch.
Yes.
They've been doing a bunch of dirt work down there, and it looks like they've significantly altered the original lay of the land. I believe we have laws on the books preventing developers from doing excessive modifications to the original lay of the land. And it looks like they built 2 terraces down there, which at the far west ends appear to be not 6 feet above the original grade level, but probably closer to 40 or 50 feet. I've had some complaints from the other residents that those are probably in violation. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Sure. First of all, that particular project was approved prior to the code that you're referencing. So they are grandfathered, for lack of better terminology. Secondly, Tim can address this, but there's a lot of earthwork going on down there because we're building a new lift station. And so we're moving dirt around in order to and get the new lift station stuff done. So I don't know how much of what you're addressing has to do with the new lift station.
I was specifically referring to as you go further uphill in the gulch closer to your house. That's where it looks like the greatest amount of modification has been done. Is that where the lift station's going, or is that where the new condos are going?
So yeah, the lift station is more towards the lake. So, but they are digging, they had to dig foundations and footing, and they had to do a new well. So there is a lot of dirt coming out of there. The stuff to the west, I think that's the new things that again, is part of, like Mayor mentioned, is part of the old grandfathered grading permit that he had. So they're moving dirt around to, clear and grub, which they can do. But we'll go and look at it. I didn't know it was that high. I haven't gone farther east in towards the subdivisions. I've just kind of been concentrating on looking at the lift station and my staff. So we'll take a look at it, and we'll report back and let you know via email what we find out.
I appreciate that. It's also cut off a portion of that multi-use trail that goes down into that gulch. So there's to reattach that. Thank you.
Yeah, Bob, just so you know that, I mean, we knew that trail was going to get disrupted. And it will eventually, be reconnected, but that, we put it in early so at least we could enjoy a portion of it, before they started building over there. So, the other thing I think it's important for residents to know that is an active building site. So once you get down to the bottom of Dead Man's Gulch, you need to be heads up because of the construction activities.
Thank you.
Jonathan Gunn, go ahead.
Are you able to hear me?
We are.
I was wondering if you could take a moment to explain what's going to be happening with respect to the lift station, that is the new lift station down in Shoreline. I understand that there's going to be some additional sewer lines run all the way up in the northerly direction along the emergency egress, and then eventually even further north. And so I was wondering if perhaps you could explain what's going to be involved in that and the anticipated timing.
I can give you a high level of what the project is, but Tim can probably get closer to the timing. But so the current lift station for the town of Hideout is not sufficient to handle the demand from all the various subdivisions that have come in. Additionally, that lift station is not designed in a way that the newer technologies have come along that make lift stations a lot more maintainable. And so additionally, there were several individual small lift stations that were coming in with the project. So Lakeview is going to have one, Deer Springs is going to have one, Deer Waters already has one. And our goal is to consolidate all those into one properly designed, redundant lift station. So we'll have three tanks, motors, pumps, the whole bit, and we'll have redundant lines running from that lift station all the way up to the JSD lift station, which is the one up by the Ross Creek entrance. So it's going to be a lot more robust and sustainable infrastructure for us. As for timing, Tim, I know they're pouring foundation type stuff, but I'm not sure what our estimated guess point is, but it's probably a while yet.
I think best case scenario, we're probably looking middle of next year to kind of hopefully completed. I'm hoping that we can get started in spring and maybe complete that some of the piping and everything by the middle of next construction season. So we'll see. I mean, there's a myriad of things, as everyone's aware, with the supply chain issues that we're currently having still, that pipes and manholes and things like that. It's just we don't know some of these timeframes as they continue to keep getting pushed out. So hopefully I think that's our initial project timeline, and hopefully we can stick to that. And if it changes, we'll let everybody know.
Does the project, excuse me, does the project involve additional lines being dug from Shoreline all the way up to Deer Springs as well?
Yes.
Okay, and does that fit within the targeted, and I understand it is targeted time frame of mid-construction season next year?
Yeah, I mean, we've got the intention is to keep. We already have a line that's pressurized line from our current lift station, and we're adding a second line with larger capacity. We're going to keep the original line as well for redundancy purposes, in case of any reason that we have to do work on what will become the primary line. We can use the secondary line as a backup and keep the system running. But yeah, there's going to be new pipe run all the way up. It'll pick up the current Deer Springs lift station, and run it up past the Ross Creek entrance and into the JSSD lift station.
Okay, and one final question, if I might. There is a green lift station that is right along the emergency egress. When does that go away? And if so,
Yes.
What's the expected timing for that as well?
Yeah, that it does go away. That's the one I'm talking about that ties in. It'll be sometime next year. I can't tell you much more than that right now.
Okay,
Yeah,
well, terrific.
all the lift stations that you see will all go away, be replaced by this new one, which is being designed in a way which should be less intrusive as well than the current ones.
Okay, well, terrific. Thank you for taking the time to answer my questions. Much
Sure.
appreciated.
I don't see any other hands. And I would just let me say that our staff and public works team are available to chat with when you have questions like that, like Jonathan just asked. So by all means, you don't have to wait for the public input session. If you got something on your mind, you're welcome to reach out to the public works engineering staff and ask questions. Not just at the council session, just so you don't have to wait. Okay, with no more hands, I'm going to close public input, and we'll move to the agenda items. Item 1 is lot 37 driveway amendment. We did talk about that at a prior meeting. This is on Longview Drive, between the roundabout and where Shoreline Road starts, where those downhill builds are going. We approved them to have a new driveway entrance, but due to the timing of all of our revisions and reviews, their actual original 6-month timeline is running out. And so they're asking the town council to give them an extension, which we've done before for other people. They're close. In fact, the plat is sitting in in the office requiring just a couple more signatures, but we're concerned about how quickly we can get it recorded versus the timeline. So Thomas, if you'll take us through that, please.
Sure. Yeah, Mayor, you actually covered it pretty well. Again, this one's really close. It's almost ready to be recorded. In fact, it may get recorded tomorrow or Monday, but we want to just make sure that if it's not tomorrow, that they have the extension so that we can record it into next week. Again, nothing changed on this particular project. This was lot 37, the driveway that was a single driveway that went to lot 36 and lot 37. They divided the driveway, created limited common open space between the two, and created an independent driveway for lot 37. And so nothing changes. All of the conditions that were outlined in the original staff report remain. No codes or anything have changed. No health, safety, welfare concerns have changed. So this is, as the mayor said, really just an extension. The only thing I might point out is that we did create a resolution so that we had these conditions in one place. We did not do that initially just because it was such a minor subdivision, but we've decided that we're going to do resolutions for every subdivision just because that allows a resolution to live and be to live with council and be signed by council. So we do have a resolution attached, and it just really notes some of the conditions of approval that include the retaining wall not to exceed 4 feet, slopes, that kind of thing for the driveway to ensure they meet planning, landscape design, and engineering standards. Certainly welcome to answer any questions. I've got a short report. Yeah, you kind of just went through it. Then you get to the resolution right here. The prior staff report that you guys approved the minutes for just tonight is also attached if you needed more detail. And then there's the subdivision plat itself is also included if you had any specific questions.
So are we reapproving this resolution, Thomas? Is that what we're doing?
We
or-
didn't approve a resolution the last round because it was such a minor subdivision. We just didn't do a resolution, but in retrospect, we thought, let's do it. We had a subsequent one to this, lot 38 and 39. We did a resolution. So we thought, hey, now's a chance to go ahead and do a resolution and formalize it.
Okay, so if we do this resolution, it by definition opens the 6-month period again.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So any council member have questions for Thomas?
This is Chris. So you said there are no changes, except for the inclusion of a resolution.
That's correct. Yep.
Okay.
Just formalizing the conditions. Yes.
Okay. I don't have any problem with it. I think it's a good idea. We wouldn't want, a couple of days to require them to come back and start over again.
That's right. We are so close to getting this thing signed and recorded.
Yeah.
Okay, so I need a motion. There are no other questions. A motion to approve a resolution approving a subdivision amendment for Hideout Canyon Phase 1, amended Pod 9, Lot 37, amendment to the residential subdivision located in Hideout, Utah. You don't have to say all that stuff again.
So moved, as you just said.
Thank
And
you.
I will second.
Thank you, Carol. Ralph?
Yes.
Thank you. Sherry?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
And Chris?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. That is approved and so resolved. And so lot 37 can keep moving forward without, so we can get this done in the next few months. Next few days, I mean. So, okay. Thank you all on that one. Sorry, I'm scrolling, but I'm on my iPad, which doesn't seem to be quite as easy to work with as my desktop. So the next item is the, once again, infamous dark skies ordinance. So Thomas, we've done a lot of work since the last time we talked about this. So maybe you want to share everything that's been done with the council. There are questions about, did we got new light readings? We met with the HOAs once again. We've had several comments from various citizens et cetera. So maybe Thomas, you can take us through it without going through all 15 pages or whatever it is.
Sure, I'll be succinct, I promise. So again, you guys remember the dark skies ordinance. For your information, the document that you see in this attached to this staff report has not been changed from the document that you guys reviewed the last time. We did have some public input, if you remember, regarding string lighting and a few other things. That's been incorporated in as an exception. So you all know there was some discussion over the course of the past month with regard to address lettering that may have backlighting on it, so it kind of halo glows to identify addresses on houses. We've kind of looked into that. That does meet the dark skies ordinance because the light source itself is behind the actual face of the letter. And so we were thinking about incorporating an exception for that, but we don't actually need to because the light source is concealed. So it does meet dark skies ordinance. That's just kind of an FYI. That was the only other issue that came up. We haven't had any additional input. We did go out, Tim and Daniel have gone out over the course of summer and winter and taken readings. We have some maps attached and you can generally see that we're in pretty good shape. You know, really the range on the light meter reading is between 7 and 23. 7 is the brightest, 23 is really the darkest measurable light. Most lighting, 16 to 21 is really what Dark Skies International recommends that light fall into. Most of our lighting does fall into that. We have a couple of areas in the winter that are just under 16. And so, you know, those may be areas that we really have to start to look at. We have 5 years to work with HOAs, homeowners, et cetera, to get that right. But really, we were in pretty good shape from baseline perspective. I can go through those numbers, and certainly I think Tim and Daniel are on the phone. They can provide input as well. The only thing I'd maybe say just before that is that Alicia posted the Dark Skies document on the website and reached out to the HOAs to let them know that it was there. We haven't had any input or contact from the HOAs at this point. So again, this is basically the same document that you all saw, and we are here to answer any questions should you have them. Again, I just did want to point out, again, timing for compliance here. Early on in the process, we had looked at 3 years. We did increase that to 5 years. And so that is incorporated into this ordinance.
All right, Thomas, hey, this is Chris. Just out of curiosity, let's take a look at Upside Drive. Middle of the roadway 15 and a bit, driveway 14. Lower numbers are bad, right?
That's correct.
Okay,
yep, they're the brighter lights. Yep.
So in your opinion, to remediate that on Upside Drive, what would that take?
I think that what that is that's an eve light under under one of the houses there, right? And so it's worth noting.
Because I'm the one that did the readings.
Yep, go ahead, Daniel.
When I'm standing right on the edge of their driveway. So anytime it says end of driveway, I'm literally standing on their driveway. So when it says 14, that means it's getting spillage from the underneath eve lights, which are still considered okay for dark sky. And the light isn't spilling into the roadway, so therefore it's on their property. So that's where that's coming from. The only way to really lessen it is to put in a light bulb that doesn't have as much lumens. But I'm literally standing in the driveway just so that we could see in the road, this is what it is. I'm in their driveway with the light meter at chest high holding it. Now, if I held that above my head, that light would have been differently. It would have read differently than if I was somewhere else. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. Thomas, do we specify in the ordinance that 16 number, like this unit of measure that we were talking about? I don't recall it being in the ordinance. Do you remember that? And how we measured this?
We just make the notation that it's a recommendation to meet Dark Skies International. So these are their numbers, and this is their the way they measure light, and it's based on MPSAs is the light measurement. You're thinking that maybe we'd want to put the numbers in the ordinance to ensure that people know, yeah, that's
Just so that there's an actual, line, don't cross this line. And if you stay, if your readings are higher than this and you're okay. Is that, because I know the spirit of what we're trying to do is to not make Hideout a glowing, city, that we're really trying to protect, the dark skies, protect kind of natural setting for people and for wildlife and for other reasons. But I just, that's the question that came to mind when I saw these light readings, and do they translate into something in the ordinance that is measured, kind of measurable, so people, know where they'll stand if they were to do a light meter reading at chest high? What does that mean exactly? In order for them to be compliant, do they have to just use a smaller, a different bulb in the fixture, in that case? Or, what they're going to want to know how to remediate this. And I'm just curious.
Well, it's a good question. And so what the ordinance would say is that, so these are under eave lights, and Daniel can confirm if I make a mistake here, but I think that the bulb actually meets the dark skies ordinance. And that is because the bulb itself is concealed from view on the horizontal plane. It just happens to be pretty darn bright. I think Daniel did a measurement up pretty close to the light, and it was about 8.7. Am I right there, Daniel?
Yeah, when I stood underneath, I was afraid people were going to come out and get mad at me. I was wandering all over their property, and it's like 10 o'clock at night, and this random guy with my wife in the truck, right? So I'm sure they were probably thinking, who is this person? So I did the first time, the winter time, I went right up under the eaves, and it's like 7.6. The only thing, and I know we don't talk about them, but Park Cities, and I'm sure you guys have looked at it, they have a specific like lumens and or 60 watt, 40 watt, or certain lumen that can be under an eave light. And so you can incorporate all kinds of things into it, but I think that's something that can be incorporated as you go. Doesn't need to be, if they have a concern, hey, I have 14 at my driveway, what can I do to fix that? They could put in a different lumen light. But as far as the ordinance being, they are meeting the requirement by the fact that it's under the eaves and it's recessed up in. So as long as it's not hanging down and or there's a shield over it that puts it so that it's pushing the light downward, is all that dark sky is asking for. So like any light that has a shield over it that pushes the light towards the ground is what it's looking for. So under eave lights where you can't see them, things like that, those are all dark sky compliant. The only way they can fix it is to put something in that doesn't put off as much light. Is that?
I guess, Thomas, I'm coming back. I thought we also had lumen limits.
We actually do. We have a Kelvin, a color temperature limit, so that they don't go too bright. So we have 3000 Kelvin, and then we also have 1500 lumens. So yeah, Chris, to answer your point, what we would do is we would work with them to make sure that maybe the lumens are slightly reduced, right? They're really close. That one's really close, right? Because the fair thing is to say, we want it to be above 16 at the property line, right? That's probably a fair statement. And we could put that sentence in the ordinance if you wanted, but the way they would get there is their fixture is fine. The location of their fixture is fine. They would just need to reduce the lumens and make sure they meet the Kelvin color temperature.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, I think, really what we're going for. And I'm glad to hear that their fixtures are fine, right? Because that's where the money is. When
that's right.
Replacing bulbs is not that hard. They do eventually burn out anyway.
That's right.
The other question I would ask Thomas is, Daniel made a point, he's doing it at chest high. The reality is dark sky is probably higher than chest high. And is there a recommendation anywhere that we found that it should be done at a height of 8 feet off the ground or something?
You
And I
know,
think, it's unreasonable maybe to expect to have dark sky at street level, for example.
yeah, no, that's a good point. The answer to your question is it's all over the board. Dark sky ordinances are relatively new in the past 5, 6, 8 years. And so it's a little bit all over the board. I will say that one measurement tactic that I did see was that people recommended trying to do it at about 8 feet high, but that really means that, you know, just from a physical perspective, you're kind of holding it over your head, shooting the meter, which is doable. That's getting close to 8 feet high. That could be our standard. Beyond that would be really hard. You'd have to make sure you have ladders or trucks out there, which I don't know if that's really worth doing. I think just to say roughly approximately 7 or 8 feet high might work. Daniel, I think you did a couple that were a little bit higher, didn't you? Daniel, you're on mute if you are speaking. There you go.
Sorry, I'm on parent teacher conference while I'm doing this also. So I'm double tasking. I'm sorry. Yes, I did a few that were above my head and some at chest, but I figured if we're going to do a light meter test, we're going to do it at our chest, or you're going to worry about what's at your eye level. So that's why I did 90% of it at my chest or at my eye level, because that's where the light hits you. But I did do a few at night in the winter above my head, and it changed dramatically because the light it's not in that area. So sorry, I'm listening.
Yeah,
And
no, I understand that. So
Sorry.
I think we got to figure out is, if I'm standing on my porch and the house below me's lights are on, what's the impact to me, for example? And that's certainly typically higher than chest high. And, I just, as an example, I don't know what the right answer is. It's just something to think about.
No, I think Daniel, when you measured the light above your head, let's say you held the light meter at your chest and took a measurement, then you put it up above your head, wouldn't the number go up? It would be less bright. In other words, it's trending brighter if you're measuring it at chest level rather than on a ladder. I guess he's talking to his teacher.
Okay. Well, that's just something for us to think about. I don't know what we want to do about that.
I just think consistency is important. We just decide. I actually agree with Daniel. When you're taking a measurement, just be consistent. If we do it the same height everywhere, then that's our standard. And well, Thomas, can you just summarize? I mean, I see we have readings that are on the edge, right? 16 is being the edge, and we've got some below, but they're not terribly below, right? They're
not
just a little
7,
bit
yeah.
below.
No, that's right. It's actually all pretty good. There's some that are just kind of borderline, right? So again, within 5 years with slightly better lights, lower lumens, I mean, I think we can get there. And I do want to answer one of your questions with regard to chest versus roughly 8 feet. Tim took a measurement in near the roundabout light, and if he held the light meter above his head in the middle of the road, the light meter read 16.9, a higher number. At chest height, it was almost 2 points lower, 14.5. So it is pretty significant. I think that everybody did hit on a good point, though. While 8 feet might be kind of a nice standard measurement, hold it above your head, there is a part of me that now says, I reconsider, I'd almost say just do eye height, roughly eye height, who's ever going out, because otherwise
Exactly.
it's really hard to work around in.
Right. And we don't have to be precise, right? This
Yeah.
isn't that precise. So
That's right.
I'm back. Sorry. Was there a question for me?
there was, but Thomas answered it.
Okay. Sorry. I'm super sorry, but
No,
I have to do 2 things at once with my kids and home and everything. So
We're happy you're here, Daniel, even if you're, doing 2 things at once.
I get distracted. I apologize.
All right. So the conclusion we can draw from these winter and summer readings is that we're pretty close.
Yeah.
There are no, no substantial changes that need to be made. It's all feels doable in 5 years. There probably were some fixtures you discovered that were non-compliant. Like I said, I know I have some on my own home.
Mhm.
And like I said last time, I never liked them anyway. So I'll probably replace them in the next 5 years. But, and I know that at Deer Waters, they have those triangle looking things with the bulbs that sticks out below. They're probably not compliant. That would have to be changed in the next 5 years. And so that's kind of the current conditions. And then all future development, everything going forward, people would have to comply with this stricter standard, because it is a little stricter, it seems, than the design review committee for the HOA.
That's right. And, one of the things, once we implement the ordinance, I think you hit on the most important point, and that is, we start to get things right from here forward, right? With new development, it's much easier to come in with a fixture that meets dark skies, that conceals the horizontal plane, the horizontal view plane of a light bulb, rather than retrofit it. So once the ordinance is in place, it's really making sure that the next the next 1,000 houses that are built meet the ordinance. It just makes it a whole lot easier down the road. And then also we can work with certainly Terry and Will Pratt over at the HOA DRC to make sure that we're all on the same page. I think they try to do a pretty good job anyway. And so if we just share our standards, it's probably a bit of back and forth and a bit of collaboration. It'll probably make it a lot easier for anybody building a new house. They just do it right up front.
I would like to make a comment. This is Carol. I'm living in an area that has a reading of 15.36. We're so close to the 16. Are we okay for the next 5 years? And then as our bulbs burn out, we replace?
Yes.
Okay, my other comment was, when I'm out in the evening, I often drive past Deer Waters. I don't want to single them out, but it seems to me that those lights are a lot brighter than when I come into Shoreline 1. And you didn't kind of designate between Shoreline 1 and Shoreline 2. You just use the streets, but I am a little bit concerned about Deer Waters because they really seem invasive, almost bright, as opposed to after you go along the dark stretch of road and then where there's no lighting and then you hit Shoreline, it seems a lot dimmer. So I'm hoping that somebody will go out to Shoreline. And looking at the map, you didn't really have any indication for the Deer Waters area. So I think it might be good for somebody to go back out there and check the reading, where the homes actually are, where people live in them.
We can do that. And certainly we have the light meter now. Daniel and Tim have used it on a couple of occasions. So we certainly do intend to go back out and do more specific readings. This was just to kind of give a baseline across as much geography as we could.
Okay. And I'd like to go on record by saying I'm all in favor of dark skies.
Great. Thanks.
Other questions for Thomas on this particular set of data before we keep going through here?
While you're kind of rolling through that, Mayor, I think it's a good idea. We'll add the sentence in that says that we measure it using MPSAs, which is the standard dark skies light measurement, at approximately eye height at the property line. Does that make sense for everybody? And our intent is to get the measurements between 16 and 23. We want to keep them above 16. Does that make sense? I'll incorporate that sentence up front.
It does, Thomas. The only thing I would say is we're going to end up at some point, we're going to end up with a debate around eye height for a 6-foot person is different than eye height for a 5-foot person. And
you want me to say a particular height?
well, so, that's why I'm more interested in actually picking a height,
Okay,
right?
well, we could set a height easily.
I mean, so.
Mayor,
no,
I know you're right. We need to just have a specific number, otherwise we're gonna get pushed back.
You know, if you want to use 6 feet, use 6 feet. Because even somebody of a shorter stature like myself can step on a box without presenting too much risk and take a reading at 6 feet high.
Okay, we'll go stick. I think 6 feet is a good number. Actually, I think 8 feet gets really hard measuring your arm length. So I think 6 is perfect.
I'm good with 6 too. Daniel, what do you think of 6 feet?
I'm good with that because I'm 5'9".
Perfect.
Okay, great.
So that I don't have to raise my arm for it.
I just think that avoids discussion about, well, you know, the person who came out was, you know, short and my lights are fine if you did it at a higher level, whatever. So let's just specify it and we'll be done with that.
Okay.
And the other thing, Carol, to your comment, those lights in Deerwater, some of them are, you know, are extending past the shield, which is probably why they seem so bright. So part of their solution is to find a shorter light bulb, so that, you know, their lights stay behind the shield, which might, you know, solve a lot of that brightness glare problem that you identified. So if we pass this, we can start to have that dialogue with them as well.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
What else, Thomas, do we need to?
I think that's it. I think that was it. Yeah, I'll incorporate that sentence, kind of outlining the measurement at 6 feet high. And other than that, I think that would be the only change then. Yeah.
So we do have, you know, not everybody's in favor of this, but
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I do register that not everybody's in favor of this, that folks don't understand why we would need to do this. I just want to say that I recognize we don't all agree on everything. But given these readings that we have and knowing that it's not going to be overly burdensome to the HOAs or to the individual homeowners to try to attempt to comply within 5 years. I think we're coming to that conclusion anyway. I can tell you, having lived here for a long time, I've been in this house for more than 7 years now, and I know that the state park also is a dark sky park. I think it is very, very important before development goes even more crazy out here that we, you know, set a precedent here with Hideout, and then we try to encourage all the communities around us to do the same thing.
I think that's great, Chris. I agree. The other thing is that I don't want to be, I'm not trying to be disrespectful anyway, but there in today's world, there are, we seem to be a little less considerate than we used to be some years ago. And, you know, I can see at some point in the future, somebody deciding that they're going to light their driveway with spots because the kids need to play hoops and practice their shots at night and whatever. And, you know, and then we'll start getting complaints that these guys have these monster bright lights on, and we're not going to have any language to suggest that they need to, you know, have them turned off at a certain period and all that kind of stuff. So while I appreciate that we should, in a perfect world, we would be better at self-policing ourselves and being better neighbors and considerate people. The reality is that sometimes you need stuff like this to you know, drive home the message. So I too support the concept and the ordinance. So. Okay.
Ralph, do you have any pushback? I know that, you had some concerns about seeing this report. I mean, do you have any thoughts or reactions?
Well, I think I said I'm in favor. I did read over Brian Amaridge's letter, which I thought was a thoughtful letter. And I think there's things in there like that reflect other things that we should be doing, including taking account of how much is this going to impact the town if we do this. And this is just general, not so much tied into this. And what's the cost impact of doing things like this or enacting other ordinances, which take time and effort by our staff to do things. So I really take into consideration that. I think everything I've read nationally seems to indicate like states like Texas are moving forward with at almost at a state level for dark skies. Cities like Pittsburgh have even enacted things, and that's pretty hard for a city to do. So I'd like to move forward with this. I think it would have been really great though if we could have taken a survey of the town and we used the Poly platform to do that. And this is kind of an ordinance that does not have any, irreparable harm if we didn't enact it. And so in the future, what I'd like to do is use our platform, Poly platform, to get input from other folks in the town. And that's where I think we've fallen short here.
Well, Ralph, it seems like we could use that platform also to raise awareness of dark skies and, through these surveys, alert people that, hey, assuming we adopt this ordinance that alert people that, hey, we've done this and, you got to start thinking about this. We'd like your input, et cetera. I mean, we can have an opportunity to make modifications to the ordinance after we adopt it. If we get some kind of input that we agree we need to consider in action, right? So,
yeah. And I think, where if we did get any negative reaction, I'm assuming it would come from some of the HOAs, particularly maybe the older ones. But if we haven't gotten that, I'm certainly would like to move forward. But I think this is a typical kind of ordinance where we could have done some cost estimates for the future. What would it impact our town staff to manage this, so to speak, going forward? So I think there's some learning things that we should incorporate in terms of what we do in the future on ordinances like this.
yeah, I agree, Ralph. Thanks. Fortunately, I think we've got time. With 5 years, there's no enforcement that's going to start till then. So we do have a little bit of time, but you're entirely right. I think we're
my
growing and
comments
maturing.
are really not necessarily aimed at this ordinance, but how we do things.
I think you're right, Ralph. I think it's a great idea to ensure that we've attempted to reach everyone through as many mechanisms as possible to ensure that the community at large knows when an ordinance is being discussed and have the opportunity to provide input.
Yeah, and I think it brings up a point, Mayor, that we do attach to any ordinance where it has a financial impact to individuals and homeowners in the town and to the town staff itself, that we have an estimate of what this is going to cost to manage in the future, and if there is an impact to property owners, that we have some kind of impact, and doesn't have to be, super thorough in my view, but we, an estimate, so people have an idea and we have an idea of what that cost and impact is going to be in the future. So more general comments than
No, I think that's very reasonable, Ralph. I think we can certainly have the staff that's developing these come forward with potential impact to residents from a cost standpoint.
I mean, the federal government tries to do that on some of its bills. You know, not that we want to mimic what the federal government does, but maybe we could do this in a very simplistic way that would give us some better idea.
No, I like it. I like it.
And that's my only comment.
Thanks.
And thanks for asking, Chris.
Okay, anything else from council? If so, sorry, if not, then we have a draft ordinance here. I'd look for a motion to approve and enact the ordinance enacting Title 10, Chapter 16, Dark Skies Lighting, as described here, plus with the changes that we asked Thomas to make as far as both the range on the light meter and the height of the measurement. And then on this particular one, because it's in the package, Alicia, we would need to change the date in the bottom here because this is carried over from the August meeting, which is long past.
I will move that we adopt the ordinance with the corrections or additions made.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Was that Sherry?
Yes.
Thank you, Sherry. Okay. Let's see how we feel about it. Bob Nadelberg.
Yes.
Yes, you support it?
Yes.
Okay. Ralph,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
okay, Sherry,
Yes.
and Carol.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, thank you. We are done with that one. I would ask that I know we don't have enforcement for 5 years, but I'll work with staff to ensure that we're communicating with those that we know to be either homeowners or HOAs that we know to have deficiencies versus the current, and make them aware that under the now passed ordinance, they have to start planning to address the issues. So we won't wait 5 years and hand people a notice on the last day, is what I'm saying. If we identify, we know there's some places we talked about already, Deer Waters, or some individual homes that have unshielded lights, etc. So we'll, Tim, ask you to take the lead to make sure that we work through and get communication over the next, several months that people know that this has been passed and, they need to be planning to make a change.
Yep, okay, I will do that, Mayor.
Thank you. Item 3 is a discussion item for council. And that is that I guess it's sort of a similar thing, which is a timing issue. With the Wildland Urban Interface Code, and I think you've all seen the emails from the fire folks, there's an expectation that that the house number is visible from the end of the driveway. Any piece of property inside the town of Hideout, since it applies to all of us. And to date, and it doesn't have to be at the end of the driveway, it just has to be visible. And so, there are places, like all the shoreline numbers are on posts on their walkways in, and they're generally visible. Sometimes you have to shine a light on them at night because they're dark numbers, but they're there. But there are places in the town of Hideout where, and or individual homes where that you can't see the house number from the end of the driveway. So the question I have for council is, besides communicating this, what do we want to say that that we would ask that everyone address this by the end of 2023, by the middle of 2023. What do we think we want to do to ask folks to be compliant? So that, particularly because emergency services, I know when talking with Clint and the guys at the fire district, that there are times where they're not sure they're at the right house.
Yeah, I've had
So-
that same thing happen with delivery people.
Yeah.
Right? They're not sure they're at the right house also. I just wonder, I know with my own house, it was a struggle to get through the HOA design review committee to figure out the house number. You know, we happened to come up with a unique solution to shield a power pedestal. And so that was how we got ours in. But, you know, I don't know what kind of conflicts we're going to get in with the design review committee and their standards when it comes to people who have long driveways, for example. But I do think we should try to, you know, accelerate the compliance with this as soon as possible. It's just for the benefit of everyone in case they require emergency services. But the question is how much time? I mean,
Right,
are
I
you
just-
proposing we give everybody till next summer or the end of 2023 to make sure their house numbers are visible according to the address markers section here?
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out what the council's thought is that just under the same, the same reasons we provided 5 years for dark sky compliance. And although dark sky is not a life safety issue, and this is, I don't think I would provide 5 years for this, but we also people can't do it overnight. Either have to have markers made or, have a sign produced or whatever. And so we have to provide some amount of time. I just don't know what you think is a reasonable target.
And this only applies to anything new, right? Because anything that's not new, I got that backwards. Because when we passed
Right, anything new should be compliant going
already,
forward.
okay. But so it doesn't affect that many homes, right?
No.
Because the vast majority have numbers visible from the roadway. Like you said, maybe you have to shine a light on them, but if you're standing in the roadway and you shine a flashlight out there, you'll see the house number, which I think complies, as far as I am understanding this, it would comply with the address markers section.
I don't have the language in front of me,
Oh, it's on
although it may be here in the.
it's on page 52 of the packet.
Yeah, I'm trying to move to it. There we go.
It's 52, yeah, if you keep going.
$47.
You're almost there.
4036.
There it is, address markers.
Yeah.
It is a health and safety issue, but it doesn't affect that many homes, I
No.
think.
It affects mine, I know,
Okay,
but which is fine. We've been looking for a new one anyway, so.
all right.
I have a comment to make about places that I have lived previously, particularly in California and Nevada. And they put the address number on the end of the driveway, right by the street. So it's done in like a black paint. I mean, it's very visible during the day. In the evening, you need a car light or something, but you can see it at the end of the drive, so you know where you are. Just a thought, because it's, then you wouldn't, you could add that as a possibility.
We talked about that, Carol, but because we have snow on the ground for, I don't know, 5 months here.
Right.
For months, it's a little different.
Yeah, it seems to me that in Nevada, I was in Reno, we definitely had snow. They came through and they kind of refreshed the number. So it was always visible, you know, every year it got a
So
little bit of
so
paint.
speaking of an item that's gonna add cost and labor to the town, if we had to maintain in what's soon to be, will at some point be over 2,000 units, with numbers at the curb, I mean, we basically have a painter on staff.
Oh,
So-
okay, I get that.
So I think I would rather encourage our residents for their own safety to come up with a solution that solves it.
You couldn't make the residents do the painting? You know, if you,
I don't know how to do that.
Well,
I mean, I
and
guess you get
I
all
really-
kinds, yeah. you get
I'm
all
sorry,
kinds-
Carol,
no.
I think we can ask the residents to find, find signage of some sort that meets. But for example, in the winter, in a snowstorm, the number's gonna be covered. So if that's the only number is the one on the curb, then it's gonna be, and particularly for part-time residents who don't live here full-time, obviously, and have services that come and clear their driveway sometime after a storm. It could be days before that number gets visible, if not weeks.
yeah.
So,
Well, Carol, I know what you're saying, because he had the same in Northern California where my family lived. But I just want to say, if we leave it like it is and give the homeowners, property owners, the latitude to decide what their own solution is, as long as it, it's visible with a flashlight, fire the first responder can figure out which house to go to. That's, I think, what we're going for, without being overly prescriptive about how it's done.
I agree, Chris. That's what I was trying to get to. You said it much more succinctly than I.
Right. I mean, I have been frustrated in Hideout, particularly in Rustler, where I couldn't see the address. I drove around and around.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's, and I don't want to single Rustler out. I mean, it's just, yeah, we need to make sure everybody has a visible address.
Yep,
Yeah,
that's what we're going for. And the question is, how long until we, since this is health and safety, do we want to specify a relatively short time frame for people to do this, or give them a little bit longer?
So my input on that would be similar to what we talked about previously is, do we have an estimate of how well we're performing on this or how well we're not? I mean, I heard I heard some comments on there's not that many, but do we know roughly what percentages of homes would be, out of compliance, so to speak? And
I
So
would venture to
that-
guess, Ralph, that it's, maybe 30 out of 600.
So you're saying like, 5%?
Yeah, or less.
Okay. Well, that's a good number to work with, number one. So, if that's the case. So the second piece is, are the folks that are in that 5%, and I don't think you're going to answer this, and nor would I know, are they homeowners in town who, are permanent residents, or are they out of town most of the year? So, you got to give them maybe. a
I
little
can't
bit
answer
more.
that. I just,
Either could I. So,
I mean,
but we have a lot of
Yeah.
doors that
I
people
mean,
aren't here all the time.
whether it's 30 or 100, the answer still is that from an emergency services standpoint, if this is something that is for a good thing for the health and safety of your family or your resident or whatever. So I don't have any issue with, regardless of the number. The more is just giving them enough time to find a solution and get something ordered and installed. It is you don't want to be you don't, what I want to be able to do is say the town has made every possible effort to help emergency services respond as quickly and directly as possible. So that in a case where, once whatever the deadline we set is, if they don't find the right house right away, and as a result, tragically someone has a worse event because they couldn't get there directly, that we've got, language and efforts showing that we've attempted to do the best we could for the emergency services.
So how are we going to communicate this to those out of compliance? So particularly for people.
I think we would do a certain, my feeling is we'll take a drive around and put hang tags on people's doors. If they're not full-time residents, then we'll send them an email.
Yeah, probably have to send them something because I don't think we know who's there. And some people who are there sometimes are
Right,
not there. Yeah, I think we'd have to be fair to everybody.
Yeah,
And
so maybe we just identify the units and send messages. I would send a bulk in our newsletter. I would put this in our newsletter first, and then we'd send a bulk. We'd send a specific mailing to those that we've identified as potential issues.
And a lot of out-of-towners might not be looking at our website on a regular basis. Anyway, just to be fair to everybody.
Well, typically we do our newsletter by email. So doesn't mean people read it, but normally it's, if you look at our website, you would be in your inbox, somebody's inbox. So.
Well, I would propose that we give, because it is a health and safety issue, 5 years is too long, but, because we don't know exactly how many we have, we think it's a small percentage. I'm going to propose that we start advertising it this year, but we give them through 2023 to comply, is my proposal.
I actually think it would be great to have it by the summer before the fire season starts, maybe July 1st.
Okay.
Just a thought.
Not a bad thought. Yeah, I like that thought.
I
So that
actually like
puts
that thought
even
too,
more
Sherry.
onus on us communicating properly in multiple ways.
Yeah.
Give everybody.
Yeah, I think Sherry's got a good point there. I like that. I like that even better.
I like it too.
Yeah, me too. Okay. So this is not a referendum or anything else. It's just, we've already passed this. It's just when we communicate with everybody on this particular topic, we want to be able to set a target and get it out there. So that's very helpful. So thank you for that. Paul? Okay. The next one is of a similar nature. So this is consideration of possible adoption of an ordinance amending Title 8, Chapter 4, obstruction of public streets and property. Tim's going to talk about this, but if you've driven through town, you may have noticed that people have placed ramp type structures in front of their driveways to lessen the maybe smooth out the drop off from the driveway to the street, as opposed to that clunk down over the curb. And I completely understand it. That it is, it's a pretty good drop off between the curb and the street. And that's by design, because those curbs are designed to move water to the storm drains, etc. But those ramps present a blockage from a plowing standpoint, and there's no way that we can plow without hitting them and get to the curb. And we can't can't identify driveways to drive around and all the rest of that. And so Tim has put some language together that he's asking the council to consider. That we look at banning those things so that the guys have clear passage as far as driving the plows. Now, I mean, the first question, Tim, did I get it right, or is there something else that I'm missing?
No, yeah, everything you're saying is correct so far, and I think you're probably going to segue into the storm drainage-ish portion of it next in regards to runoff and water.
Yeah. So
Unless you want to, Mayor, it's up to you.
no, go ahead. I mean, that's fine. I mean, you were the guys cleaning it up, so.
Yeah, yeah. And so, you know, again, Mayor's right. I mean, in regards to the snow issues, it's a big deal. You know, we've hit them in the winter, and so we want to make sure that we're not damaging any property, but also you know, as we've had some of our recent rains, it's caused me to kind of evaluate again some of the things that we can do better as a town, and this is one of them. A lot of these gutters are being with these type of ramp ups into the driveway. It's actually diverting the water flow into the middle of the street, and so it's actually to some degree bypassing some of the storm drain catch basins a little bit lower down, or it directs flow to the other side of the street, which sometimes might actually overload the catch basin on the other side of the street. So there, you know, what limited storm drains we do have is actually designed to capture and move that stormwater through the stormwater system pipes out into the outfall. So we want to, you know, have these removed and make sure that it directs water where it's going in, you know, throughout the non-winter months. And then in the winter months, this is a definite thing to help us so we don't damage our plows and damage personal property that's left out in the gutter. So I'm available for any questions you might have. And I think Mayor explained it pretty well.
Yeah, Tim, thank you. That was great. So I think I understand why these things exist, right? Folks have maybe sports cars that, you know, might bottom out when they're going into their driveways. Is that the primary reason why these things exist, or would there be any other reason?
Yeah, no, and that's kind of exactly what I think personally. And again, I've always had trucks or Jeeps, so I don't know, but I do see a lot of low profile vehicles in town that are cars. And so they're designed to help avoid any scratches, you know, that kind of that scrape sound as you come over the gutter into your driveway. So that's kind of the purpose of them, and they're great and they work really well. Again, it's a hindrance to the storm drain system and snow removal.
I just want to say, those are summer cars generally, right? If the car is that low that it's going to scrape going over the curb, the catch basin, whatever you call that piece, that car is probably not being driven in the winter.
Yeah, you know, and you're probably right, Chris, but you know, like a Audi all-wheel drive, you know, some of those Audi type of cars, you know, BMWs that are kind of that low profile vehicle, you know, all-wheel drive, you know, I've seen them around, you know, driving a little bit in the winter. So, you know,
no, that's not what I'm talking about. Well, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the
like a mini.
Yeah, but Chris, I mean, the reality is, I mean, it bounces in, you know, I have 18-inch wheels on my Chevy and it bounces.
Yeah, no, I think you're missing my point. Let me finish. Let me make a point. Okay. My point is there are some expensive sports cars, summer cars in this town, when those are most likely, maybe not all the people that have these little ramp things, but they're the people that need them, right? Because they have a very expensive summer car that they have in their garage, and they want this thing. So they're also the people that don't want us to put in speed bumps for the very same reason, right? So we have avoided until now anyway, speed bumps. So I want to push back just a little bit because, I think it's important that we consider why these things exist and not simply that they're, not simply the effects that they may be having in a big rainstorm, for example. I am 100% behind them being prohibited during snow removal months because they shouldn't be out there for their intended purpose, and they shouldn't be out there because it'll be a hindrance to the plow operations. That I completely get behind. But as far as summer use, I think we have to just think a little bit harder about that before we prohibit those types of things for the summer. And I'd really like to know, with some data or, some information that would be convincing that it's really detrimental, to our, to the way the drainage is working, and have some specific examples before I would want to outlaw these things in the summer. That's my opinion. And having once had a sports car, which we've sold now, we didn't use one of those things, but you had to be very, very careful with the Corvette, how you got out of the driveway.
And Chris, to add to your point, I probably in the same mode as you. I think there's a few neighbors that I've had that have had those. And part of our problem here is you have historically steep driveways that need these, potentially need these kinds of things, particularly for low cars. And I think we need to put a little bit more thought into this before I'd be in favor of doing this carte blanche. So Tim, I definitely respect the fact that, we don't want to either have storm drain problems or snowplow problems, but we also live in a town that was designed before we ever moved here with a lot of steep driveways. So I think we should be thinking about the homeowners or property owners that have moved in here and have had some issues with this. So my suggestion would be, let's take a little bit deeper look at this. And again, going back to impact, what is the impact to our town, to you, to our trucks and vehicles, but also to impact to the property owners? And I don't think we've done a thorough analysis at this point. So
I'll tell you this, Ralph, I'm okay with moving this to a seasonal resolution, if you will, specific to these driveway ramps, but the damage to the town vehicles for hitting those, especially if they're gotten some water under them and they're frozen, are pretty significant. I mean, it's gonna put wear and tear and possibly even damage, the plows, the plow hydraulics, those mechanisms. If they're plowing the curb and they hit this solid chunk of rubber that's iced to the curb, and it's going to knock the truck around as well, and potentially push it out into the flow of traffic in the other direction. So I'm okay with not going carte blanche across the full season, but I think we really need to pay attention and put something in place prior to when the plows start rolling, which could be as early as next month.
Yeah, so could we put something that's not so much time driven or month driven, but just say, hey, if you leave those out when plows are coming, you're responsible for a fine and or damage. So, rather than making, again, making it, so to speak, that they're outlawed, that it's the owner's responsibility if they need to have those for a certain type of vehicle at any time of year, that it's then that specific homeowner that's responsible and could be responsible for both a fine and damage. So rather than just making it kind of a carte blanche thing. So I think
an interesting thought, Ralph. I guess we'd have to get advice from legal around whether or not we can actually enforce that.
And if I may, Mayor, I kind of want to, there's two things that have been brought up and that are great points by council members, and I do really appreciate that. I think one issue is in regards if we do a seasonal thing, you know, we could get caught with a snowstorm, and again, we may not know if it's out there, right? And the homeowners may have forgotten, they may not be home. So we may not know it's out there until the first snow, and then it freezes, and then it's more snow on top of it until it's too late. So as I look at other cities that have this same type of ordinance in place, where they have outlawed anything in the public right of way, it is for that main reason. And then, you know, Soaring Hawk's a great example of this year. You know, we actually had a gutter that had one of these devices installed in it, and it bypassed the gutter and went down to another one, and it caused some flooding problems into a neighbor's almost all the way into their garage. So again, I respectfully understand why everybody is wanting to do seasonal, and those are just two items that come to mind that I want to just make everyone aware of, that why other cities, and you can look, you know, at other cities, for example, and do some research. For example, you know, pretty much, I think I took this one from Draper, if I remember right, but if you look, they have these things in there for that specific reason, because again, you know, like Mayor said, we get snow before we know, and you know, people may not have moved their things, and we've hit them and damaged them or damaged our equipment. So that's my 2 cents, or my 2 points that I'd like to just kind of let council know about to consider. And I do appreciate your consideration in this. And I know it's a tough one because again, you know, I've had one of those little Audi sports cars when I lived in Arizona, and yeah, I mean, I kind of lived in the same steep drive situation. So I understand you had to, you know, kind of had to angle in to not scrape the back end. So anyway, thank you for letting me add my additional comments to the discussion.
Yeah, and Tim, I would just add this. I don't know what, you know, so other towns may not have as steep slopes as we have, steep driveways. So we're kind of, I don't know how much of a unique situation we're in, but we certainly are more hilly than most other towns, like say a Draper. So I think, again, we need to think about this a little bit more and as to its impact and effect. And maybe we come up with something a little bit more reasonable, and put a little bit more onus on the homeowner. You know, that you know, after you pull your car in, you have to take up your, you know, your whatever device it is that's making it a little bit more smooth to pull in there. So that could be something that we could do without making it, again, carte blanche. And I think we're in a unique situation. So I personally would not vote for this in favor based upon our unique situation, although I respect all the reasons why we need to have some kind of mechanism to manage this. But I don't think what I'm reading right now reflects our particular issues in our community.
Okay, thanks, Ralph, and thanks, Chris. And I think
Can
we
I,
got I'm
sorry.
just going to say we're going to take it back under advisement and see if we can't come up with some different ideas.
Great. Can we talk about the other items that are obstructions as well, besides just that? Because there's quite a bit in here. Lumber, junk, trash, debris, abandoned, discarded, unused objects or equipment. Vehicles, trucks, trailers. For example, I have a trailer on my street right now. It's been here for 2 days. I don't know whose trailer it is.
Yeah, I mean, trailers are allowed from an HOA perspective anyway to be there for 48 hours for a load and unload type situation. So I think we probably do some language on time matters as well.
Those things are, you know, they're important, right?
Yeah.
Especially if somebody parks something, which may not, you know, it definitely diminishes the road width. If I had a fire truck coming down my road, I guess they would just kind of knock the trailer out of the way if they needed to. But I think we definitely want to limit the number of obstructions we have. I remember up in Shoreline 1, there was mulch dumped in the road, took up half the road for, I don't know how long it was there, but it was just dumped there.
Yeah, so we'll go not just on the driveway ramps. We'll go back through this and see if we can put a little bit more thought into this and figure out how we put language there that I mean, you know what, I'm not worried about, you know, a trailer from the standpoint of, particularly in the non-winter season, you know, because somebody's loading and unloading. I do it myself, you know, with my travel trailer, but it's more, you know, this is intended to be people who, you know, put out the old dishwasher hoping that somebody will cart it away, kind of thing. And of course, it doesn't just magically go away. So we need to put a little bit more thought into that, and we will.
Yep, that sounds good.
Okay.
No, I know time feels like time is of the essence, right? Because, you know,
Yeah.
next time we meet next month, it could be snowing.
Yes.
So.
Well, we may deal with that separately from these other ones, Chris. We may
Okay,
just
yeah, I
do
think we
separately,
should. We
specifically
should
for the driveway ramps, and then we'll
Yes.
deal with the rest of this
pull
stuff.
that one out and let's deal with it
Yeah.
as quickly as possible.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for the input, guys and gals. Item 5 is deferred because we didn't actually get the language in time for the ordinance to talk about it and give you a chance to read it. So we'll talk about that again. If you remember, we've been, you know, at our behest, the team has been working on language to ensure that anytime going forward, anytime that people bring in power lines, that they get buried and don't come in over the air. So we'll hopefully have that ready for review next month. Item 6, last month we talked about the poly platform, and we said we're going to do some testing. We've done some testing. You know, I was away for a good bit of it, but we've gotten closer to what we think is a functional app, but you guys should receive some of that. So I'd like to get some input as to whether or not you're feeling better about it now, or do you still have concerns?
Hey, Chris, so I'm going to apologize. I've been traveling almost for a month straight here. So I did not get a chance to test the survey part. And I think you and I were interested in how that looked and played out.
Yep.
And so my apologies from my end, but have you had a chance to give that a run through?
I did. I did, Ralph. I had a chance to work with Alicia, and, you know, we went through a couple of mock surveys, all the different types of responses. And it looked pretty good. I thought it worked okay. We spent about an hour, I guess, playing with surveys and postings and other things. And yeah, I think it could work for us, the surveys. If Alicia wants to speak, Alicia, do you want to add, anything additional to, the testing that you've been doing? Because I know you've been doing the most testing of all of us.
Yeah, I think we're ready to go. I think we need to get going on it and just roll it out. I know there's a couple little things that we want to work with the developers of the app to make it a little more seamless, but I think it's ready to go. I mean, we're going to get as close as we are right now, and I just think we need to get it going. So
Alicia, when we do get the go ahead to roll it out, we're going to wipe out all that test data, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we confirmed that everything would be wiped out.
And we can start. And we would be ready, when we're ready to roll it out, you're gonna have postings already out there and figure out a way to advertise this to folks and
Yep,
get people to sign up. Okay,
yeah, we have language already drawn up, memos to go out, so forth. So yeah, Alicia and I went through this together yesterday, Alicia, I don't know, sometime recently. And, came up with a list of things that, as she mentioned, we'll talk to the developer about. It's not that there are issues with the app, it's more that it requires us to do some extra work that we think could be resolved with a simple checkbox type functionality that we're asking them to consider adding. They're not going to add it specifically for Hideout, but we think it'd be a benefit to all users. And so we're positioning it that way. Hopefully they'll adopt it as an upgrade to the package, and it'll reduce the number of times, number of steps that we have to go through to get everything posted. But otherwise, I think it seems to be reasonably robust right now, and we'd like to get a communication package together and start pushing it.
now I just want to ask, are we going to have policies about the use of this app? I just want to make sure. I know the app itself, mostly works for the way we need it to work, but is there going to be some written policy about, how the town staff will use the app? If there's an approval, communications that go out, is there going to be a approval process before they get published? Things like that. Just want to make sure that when we are putting things out there, that they are, fully approved communications. That I think I've made my point. I just want to make sure that we're getting the messages that we intend to get out, and that they're clear, concise, well worded, etc.
So that's standard to have a policy along those lines, whether it be for emergency communications or just general standards of when it goes out and who has authority to send them out and who reviews it. So that's something that Cameron and I can work on. I think we've put one together for one of our other towns. So as I said, it's very standard language.
That's great. Is that something the council has to look at, or is that just an administrative function then, Polly, putting that policy together?
It's up to you. Usually just the mayor can approve the policy, but that's something that if the mayor wants input from the council, he can do that.
I'd phrase that the other way, Paul. If council wants to review it, we can certainly let you review it.
Right.
Hey,
Otherwise,
what was the, sorry.
go ahead,
Ben.
Rob.
Oh, I was just going to say, I just wanted to, what was the cost of this? I think the survey app, part of the app cost, was an additional charge. Just want to get can anybody tell me, Alicia, what's the cost on this to the town again?
A few $1,000s, Rob. I don't remember the exact number, but it's a few $1,000s.
And we've already paid that, right? We've already gotten the license.
Paid, yeah.
And the survey portion was included in that 3,000 or a few thousand. I agree. It was around 3,000.
Is that the annual price?
I believe that's annual. Is that what you
Well,
remember?
no, there was a chunk in there for a startup as well. So I don't know but it's in that, it'll be in the $1,500 to $2,000 a year kind of range, Ralph, which is not outrageous.
No, agreed. Yeah, I just wanted to get a fix on that or update on that in case it changed from where we were initially, and I forgot where we were initially, quite honestly.
Same range. Nothing's really changed on that. That's one of the reasons that was attractive to us. It was a reasonable affordability, and again, it's also because of that, it's also reasonably affordable to migrate if, better technology comes forward. I mean, it's like all apps, it's an app. And it may outlive its usefulness. There may be somebody who comes along with a smarter tool, et cetera. So, but we haven't invested like we would have in a ERP system. It's a
Yeah.
lot harder to throw it away.
And my biggest concern in any of these things is, in this specific case is the size of the company. Will they have longevity? You're locked into something. So a lot of tech companies at that size go out of business.
Ralph, they're tiny, right?
Yeah, they're very tiny, but they do have a few municipalities, not just us. And again, it's small money in the big picture of things, and it's easily
Yeah.
replaceable.
I hear
So,
you. Yeah.
it's not,
Yeah.
it's not like we put tens of thousands of dollars into development and then have them ride off into the night. I mean, there's no source code because it's an app. I mean,
Right. Yeah. And it's substitutable from
Yeah.
what I know. There are other, I did some early research on this, and there's 2 or 3 other companies that could
Yeah.
replace this. The big thing is if you get everybody, totally on board in town on the app, and suddenly you don't have an app, then you get another issue entirely.
but I understand, but I mean, it's, I guess I think it's a relatively small, relatively
Yeah, I
small
hear.
risk in the big picture of things, because it's functional. It may not get better, but it shouldn't just die. So, until we get enough iterations of OSs to put it out of view. So we have time to, if they go away, we have time to respond to that and still have it work for us. It's not running on their servers or anything like that. So we're not tied to their hardware in any way, shape, or manner. So until we update operating systems on either Android or iOS that would make it not compatible anymore, it'll run for a few versions anyway. So again, gives us time to find a solution and get the word out. So I don't see it as a they're there one day and gone the next kind of thing.
Mayor, do you think since Polly offered that policy, she and Cameron have an example, do you think we could work on that and then have the council just take a
Absolutely, Chris.
look at a
No
policy
problem
next time?
no problem at all.
Okay, because as Ralph was saying, this app is today's app. There might be an app, next year that's different or something else. But the policy should be, I think, it should
Consistent.
survive. It should
Yeah.
survive whatever technology we're going to be using.
No problem. Okay, well, thank you for your input on that. We'll keep plugging away and get that out to you, and see if we can't sometime between now and next month get to the point where we've gotten at least email feedback from you guys that you're all right with it. We can start the communication process. Okay. I don't know who is on to do committee updates at this point because it's late. We pushed it to the end purposely, so that because Polly's quite a few hours ahead of us, and want to give her a chance to get off. We don't see a need for an executive session this evening. Polly has sent an update to council members and attorney-client memo they should have received yesterday or today. So Polly, if you want to bail, we're okay with that.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, unless if anyone thinks that there's something I need to listen into, I'm very happy to stay on as well. So otherwise, I'll just look at the minutes to get up to date on all the committee updates.
Polly, just as far as the post committee, I think we might need to talk to your Cameron about the hunting, the question of hunting. But
I can stay on. I'm actually finishing up something else that So if you'd like me to stay on, I can until you get to that.
Well, we'll let
Yeah.
you go first then, Chris. You can
Okay.
go ahead.
Yeah,
Good
can we
call.
do that one first?
That'd
Yeah.
be great. Is Jonathan Gunn on still?
I don't have the ability to list
Oh,
the.
he raised his hand. So he's here. All right. I just wanted to make sure he was on when we get to that point.
Well,
Is it okay if I go straight to the parks open space?
yes, that's what I
Kathleen?
just asked you to do. Yeah.
Thank you.
please.
Okay, moving forward. All right. I want to thank Kathleen for sending out notes. She was able to run the meeting and take notes, which I think is an amazing thing, feat. So we, on our last post meeting, which was on Tuesday, September 27th, we, the entire post committee met with Jason Whitaker, who's the Jordanelle State Park manager, and we had a very good 45, 50-minute conversation. So just briefly, what we covered is we learned about some initiatives that the park is working on. They're upgrading Crandall Point, which is on the other side from us, kind of on the Sky Ridge side. And in the Ross Creek area, they've had a day use area planned there for 2 years now. They got grant money in 2018, he says, to pave a road. Oh, the 2018 grant, which we know about, they paid, that's when the road was put in, and we got that shortened, that too short boat launch. Anyway, they're still struggling, I think, with the price tag of the day use area they want to put into Ross Creek. So that project is kind of delayed at the moment, and they're trying to rejigger things to figure out whether to work on the Ross Creek side, which I think they're trying to favor, or go back over and work on another part of the park. But anyway, so it's a little bit in limbo at the moment. So he also talked about wanting to groom the perimeter trail for cross-country skiing this winter, because I believe they have grooming equipment now. And that we also talked about the concept of a nonprofit organization that might help with projects and, obtaining funding and kind of direction for projects that the state park, wouldn't be able to initiate on their own. We did not, have any conclusions yet exactly whether it would be a Hideout foundation type nonprofit or a Friends of Jordanelle State Park nonprofit. We didn't really get into the details, but we did have a discussion about that for planning and, obtaining funding. So we also talked, and Thomas was there, we talked about connecting Deer Spring Shoreline and Lakeview, those areas to the state park. Again, just introduce the idea. We did talk about the Jordanelle State Park only annual pass and the arrangement that Jordanelle State Park has made with Sky Ridge, as far as their HOA, requiring their members to buy these state park specific passes, so that the money would all go into Jordanelle State Park and not get distributed around the entire state park system. Then we also talked about hunting. So that's been, those of you who live near the shoreline have probably heard or seen hunters out there. And currently hunting is allowed in the state park. And so that's why I was going to ask Jonathan if he's able to unmute, if he could just, say just a couple of sentences about, what he was able to provide to the park manager. Jonathan, would you comment on that? If you can get off mute.
Aha, can you hear me now?
Yes.
So the DNR's own website says, and I'll just read this to you, all hunting within state parks must comply with the Utah law, federal law, DWR rules, and all county and city ordinances. So now that we're a city, it seems to me that they would have to, or they should be complying with the Hideout city ordinances. And of course, Hideout has ordinance number 11.06, which essentially prohibits the discharge of a firearm except in self-defense and other narrow kinds of things. And we have an ordinance that prohibits hunting as well. And so in light of the Lieutenant Governor's recent designation of Hideout as a city, it seemed to us, certainly seems to me anyway, I'll speak for myself, that the Jordanelle Park, under the DNR zone policy, should respect and adopt and comply with the town of Hideout's hunting and firearms related ordinances. And so we had asked that they give some consideration to that. Chris, is that what you had in mind?
Yep, and that's it. And that's as far as we got, right, Jonathan? We just introduced the idea. I think that's going to be a hard one for us to get through. So that's why I wanted Polly to hear that part. Because, we've got multiple agencies and possibly different opinions or different laws that we have to deal with. So we are, and ultimately, Polly, what we're trying to do, whether we're successful or not remains to be seen, but we're trying to prohibit hunting in Hideout and in the Ross Creek Recreation Area, which we believe is, even though it's federal land managed by the state park, I believe it's still within the boundaries of the city of Hideout. So we're trying to eliminate hunting in that area. We're not telling them they can't hunt anywhere in the park. We're just trying to make it stop in, so close to the homes that are in Hideout that are, right, literally on the border. But and if it's something we can accomplish, we want to. And if it's something we can't, we need to explain to people why we can't.
Right. So I know that Cameron had looked into this a little bit and wasn't able to track down that one statute, but just as you were talking, and he was following up with DWR and hadn't heard back. But actually, just as you were talking, it kind of brought up, because I recall that this was an issue in Park City, and I think that there is a statute that will chase down, but I think there's a state statute that says that if you have public land within your boundaries, you have to allow hunting. So, and I'm just looking, I just found the Park City issued a statement about it, and they tried to nuance it, but it makes it really difficult to, because of the state laws, it makes it very difficult to limit it. So, with kind of supremacy clauses, generally, federal land supersedes their rules, are going to supersede our town rules. That's the case up in Big and Little Cottonwood Canyon, for example. And so it's difficult to limit it, but we can continue to look into it and see if there's any other avenues that the town can pursue or not.
All right, thanks, Polly. Yeah, I think we just need to do our diligence here, and if we're unsuccessful, well, then we just have to explain to everyone why hunting will continue in the state park. And then, people need to take measures to ensure that, they feel safe in that situation.
Okay, that sounds great.
Okay,
And
thanks.
of course, the rules about, you have to be a certain distance from homes, that
Mhm.
would apply, of course, that applies everywhere. So
I think
I
you can't discharge a firearm within 600 feet of.
That's correct. 600 feet.
Yep. So
that would continue to apply.
okay. Thank you. All right. So that was. Oh, go ahead.
Hey, Chris, I was
Yeah.
just gonna say, when we find out, what we can do or can't do, maybe that would be a good time to put something up on the website and inform everybody, because I've heard similar kinds of comments from folks as well. So it'd be nice to eliminate it, but if we can't, we can't. And then why we can't should be posted on, the web and communicated properly.
Yes, exactly. And that's great. And then we could even add here are some safety considerations if you're going to recreate in the park, wear bright colors during hunting season or whatever, and, make some,
And
make
when
some.
what are the exact dates of hunting season,
Well, exactly. And maybe we can have links to the DWR sites or, because I believe they publish all that information about the different hunting seasons and what's
They do.
allowed when.
They do.
Yep. And so that would be useful as well, if we do have to give that, message that we can't prohibit hunting, but here's what you can do to make sure you're aware of what's happening, what's happening. Okay. Also, the last thing we covered were the Keatley Farms Japanese settlement historical signs. We have some temporary signs up. They were put up. Thank you, Alicia, for your help there. Very important help there. They were put up this summer to ensure they were available for a very large reunion of the families that had lived there during World War II when they had to start up that community. Those historical signs are only temporary, so we also discussed, how can we make them permanent? And we also talked a bit about organizing volunteer days in the park because, there's park maintenance that has to be done. I think Jason mentioned there is a seasonal employee that they've hired for winter grooming. So we may have some cross-country ski, snowshoe, fat bike grooming available this winter. More to come on that. So that was a lot to unpack in a very short meeting that we had. So that was essentially what we did, and we have a ton of follow-ups.
Great, Chris. Thank you. That's a lot of good, interesting progress there in a number of areas. So that's terrific.
All right, thanks. Thanks, Jonathan.
Is anyone on from the Planning Commission?
Yeah, this is Ryan. I'm here.
Hey, Ryan. Thanks for sitting it out this long.
Yeah. No problem. Yeah, I'll go ahead. Do you have Alicia, do you want to show the items or you want me to just talk from my notes about them?
You could just talk. This is intended to be unless you think the illustrations are required to help get the point across. It's more just a brief update so the council knows what you guys are working on.
Exactly. Okay. We've got 4 items that
So
I will.
Can you move your hand in front of that camera? You keep moving it around your phone. I don't know what you're doing.
Sorry.
There you go.
There you go. Can you see me? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So 4 items here. The first is Lakeview Estates, phase 2 and 3, final phases of the subdivision, which have been, approved in years past. So these are just final approvals, nothing new as far as the layout, lots, density. Deer Springs phase 3, final subdivision approval, same with that. Final approval on units have been approved prior. The 2 concept reviews that we have, one is what we call Venturi property. It's about, I believe it's 2.5 acres. One lot of record that they're working on splitting into 4 lots, ranging from 0.5 acre to I think about 0.8 of an acre. So we've been working a lot on that with the grade and access and different things with Thomas. And then the Deer Springs Cottage, which is the road that they just cut in up to the Jordanelle Parkway. This property is on the other side. It's on the uphill side. I don't recall how many acres, but originally they came to us, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 months ago with about 130 apartment units. And we pushed back on that, and the developer has redesigned that to, I believe, 35 kind of casita smaller homes on that piece with a commercial component that's for 5,000 to 8,000 square feet, somewhere along that line. So those are the four items that we've been working on.
Thank you, Ryan. Yeah, there'll be more on that Deer Springs Cottage property. There'll be more coming on that for both planning commission and council.
Correct.
So there's it's early stages yet, but it's kind of an interesting proposal, different approach, and might be a nice fit for us for a number of reasons. So
Yeah, agreed.
okay, thanks, Ryan. Sherry, community engagement. I'm sorry, any questions for Ryan, guys, before I move on?
No, I just want to say thank you, Ryan. It's good to hear what's happening with the planning commission, because in the past, sometimes I would be surprised
Yeah,
because I don't get to listen to all the meetings and I don't get to attend in person hardly ever. So really appreciate you giving us this update.
great.
Okay, Sherry.
Yes, good evening. Community Engagement Committee. I've kind of given everybody a little break for the last month because everyone worked really hard this summer on the 3 events that we had. The last event we had in September was a free barbecue for residents. We had about 140 people there, and it was really great. We had a local, Victoria, who lives in Shoreline, provided the music, and she was amazing. And the food was catered by Myers out of Salt Lake, and that was great too. And it was a beautiful night. And everyone had a great time. And I think we definitely need to do more of those types of events, as that seems to be what people want. We are meeting again at the end of this month or beginning of next month to discuss some potential winter events. In fact, one of them was a cross-country skiing or snowshoe hike gathering residents. So maybe, Chris, we can talk about combining that with one of your trails. Perhaps the perimeter trail might be a great place to do that. And then next year, of course, we want to do more concerts, as that's everyone's favorite event. We will need more volunteers. So if anyone knows people that want to help out at these events, that would be great, because it's a lot of work for the same people to keep doing it over and over again. So I really want to thank everyone on my committee. They've been amazing. So that's about it.
Thank you, Sherry. Thanks for all the work you did. And clearly a very good response, and everybody that I've talked to about it seemed to enjoy them.
Good. Good.
And so
I like to hear that.
I'm going to sign off. So thank you guys all.
Thanks,
I'll
Polly.
see you soon. Okay,
You
thanks
bet.
so much.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Polly.
Thanks, bye.
Sherry, I just want to say that your events were amazing. I didn't get to attend any, but I just heard I just was busy, but it was amazing. And what I am particularly impressed with was how you pulled it off. So 3 big events with your committee and your volunteers, and the success, and then the fact that you got so many people to attend. I think this is so needed here, and I just want to thank you for doing this and making this something that we can expect to see more of.
Well, thank you, Chris. It's something I do enjoy after many years in the event business in Florida, which I hated. It's much more fun now to do it for the town. So I hope we get you at next year's events.
Great. All right. Ralph, update on the EDC.
Just to echo what Chris was saying, yeah, thanks, Sherry. I think I've attended one, a lot of fun. I think Suzanne has attended all, or at least 2. So keep the good work up. I think everybody's enjoyed it. Yeah, not too much on my part. I'll keep my end short. Myself and Scott Davis. Scott got married, and I think he's off in Africa still. And so we didn't have a lot of official meetings. There's been definitely some work behind the scenes, but again, probably not for all public consumption at this point. We'll keep that for another time. So I'll keep my end short and pass it over to Carol, I guess, on the transfer.
Thanks. Yes. Thanks, Ralph. Carol? Are you still with us, Carol?
Oh, I was talking away and being muted. Anyhow, I'm excited to announce that they are going to open up Richardson Flat parking area during the ski season and allow people to park there, and they Park City Transit is going to be running buses. And so if you work in Park City during the ski season, you will be able to take a bus to either of the two resorts, to, I believe, the hospital and to the high school. The schedule has not been finalized yet. This is a trial. It's going to cost the city a lot of money, not our city, I'm sorry, Park City, a lot of money. They're paying for it. I know they would like donations from us, but any Hideout resident will be able to drive their car to Richardson Flat Park and take a bus in.
Carol, I'm dying to ask you because I read the articles about this and I couldn't figure it out. If, I think not all, but many of our residents might be interested in parking there and taking a bus straight to a ski resort, right?
Right.
Is that the plan? Or is this going to be like a local bus where you have to go, you have to go to the transit center and then get on something else to get to Deer Valley or get on something else to get to Park City Mountain? Do you know?
The way I understood it, and I think they're still finalizing it, but they approved the fact that Park City Transit, not High Valley, it will be run by Park City. They're still hoping to get participation from the two ski resorts to help pay for it. But they are going to be running buses at least at peak times during ski season to move employees to the place of work at either resort. That's primarily why they're doing it. They're also trying to cut back, of course, on traffic, but they had three options available. And one option was to keep everything as it was. And then the other option was not to utilize Richardson Flat at all, but to just work in some pickup points within the city. But they will be coming out to Richardson Flat. And there's a strong feeling from some of the council members and some of the town people that people who are coming in, tourists that are coming in for a week to ski will use it once and they'll say, oh, this is ridiculous. It's too far out of town. But to me, it works for Hideout and it works for Camas and it works for people in Toohey and Deer Mountain and whatever, that they can just park their cars there and take a bus in. And they
take a bus in, but if you're a day skier, see, I'm thinking from the day skier point of view.
I believe day skiers are totally acceptable. A lot of people didn't think it would fill up, but my feeling is I think it'll fill up pretty fast and there may be no parking spaces left. Who knows?
Well, I think I gave them feedback. There was a survey. I think I gave them feedback that said they really needed to run straight to the resorts if they want day skiers to park there. Right. And not be a local, and service a bunch of neighborhoods and then eventually.
No, they're not. No, it's very limited stops. Like I said, I think they were going to make a stop at the hospital. They were talking about that at the high school for sure, and the two resorts, period. And they also are looking at the possibility of going to Fresh Market and dropping people off, and then they can go ahead and pick up city buses. So I don't think it's been, their routes and their times have not been finalized, but they are going to do it.
Okay, well, I'm looking forward to hearing the final, you're going to keep you're going to keep tabs on this one and be engaged with it, right, Carol, and let us know.
Absolutely.
What happens, because I can speak for myself because I'm not too excited about paying $25 to park.
Right.
And that's definitely, but and I'm also not too excited about having to park at Canyons at 7 a.m.
That's right.
Everyone's going to park there.
Right. I mean, it'll be a work in progress. So, but at least they're going to open up the lot and utilize it. and we'll see what happens. So I will try to get information out as it gets finalized to go in the newsletter so that our residents, are aware of it and know that they can park there and ride the bus in.
Thank you so much, Carol. I'm so glad you're dialed in to this.
Okay. Any other questions?
Oh, thanks, Carol. That's very cool.
Okay.
All right. Thomas, you still with us?
I am. So, yeah, with
Quick
regard
update,
to
please.
DRC. Yep. So with regard to Design Review Committee, we have not had new applications. We're still working through some revisions for some of the project submittals for mostly in Deer Springs right now. And so that is going well, going smoothly. It is worth giving you guys an update. If you remember the claim project when they came through for phases 3 and 4, the code had changed, of course, the monotony clause was in place. We had a discussion with regard to not changing heights, but changing paint colors, but not the rest of the buildings, which again meets the intent of the code. You guys approved their new subdivision that way, recommending that they do adhere to different paint colors. They've agreed to that, but they had to go back and get a variance with regard to the strict interpretation of the monotony clause ordinance. And so we had a meeting with the administrative law judge, and the applicant, Chris Ensign, claimed did get the variance for that. We were able to show a hardship, given the process changed over the course of time and a number of other issues, and the administrative law judge did award the variance. So that project is proceeding as planned. Again, color changes going into effect, but the heights, et cetera, articulation, not necessary. They got the variance. So that was good for all of us.
That's
Thank you,
good news.
Thomas.
Yeah,
Okay. Anything else?
that's it.
All right. Tim, infrastructure? You still there, Tim?
I am, sorry, I couldn't get my phone off mute either. So infrastructure, yeah, we are looking at a couple of things right now. We're looking at the storm drain master plan. We'll make some comments and have some thoughts on that here moving forward. And then we're also looking at the water usage. And the mayor and myself are kind of in the beginning stages of that before we can kind of move that forward to show people. But those are our two major ones that we have. And the storm drain master plan, as council members know, it's a big document. So we're going to go through that and take our time and come up with any changes that we need to and make this a great document that we can live with for a long time. So pretty simple report there for the infrastructure committee. So thank you for letting me comment tonight.
Thanks, Tim.
A quick question about the storm drain master plan. I know we received it several hundred pages. Is that, and we're going to need some time to read it. Is that planned to be as presented on the agenda for next month? Like, should we get started reading that version?
No, Chris, I mean, we're gonna do an executive summary of it for you guys, first
Okay.
of all, because there's a ton of detail there.
Yep.
And there's also some things we've got to validate. So we've got some work to do. I don't know if it'll be on for November or December, but it'll be done sometime in the next couple of months.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. So no, you don't have to read the whole thing right now, guys. You can skim it if you like, but we're going to give you a little cleaner version that gets to the key points. With that, we are at the conclusion of our meeting. So here it is, 8:30 to 2.5 hours, which is pretty good for us. If you guys are ready to pull the plug, I would need a motion to adjourn. And
So moved.
who was that, please?
It's Chris.
Thank you, Chris. I'm
I'll
sorry.
second. I'll
Is
second.
it Sherry?
Yes.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Okay. Thank you all. We'll close the meeting and we'll wish you all a great, Halloween, I guess. This is October, not November. And we'll see you at the beginning of November. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, good night.